First contact and rising tensions. The Starship Odyssey drifted silently through the Carina Nebula, its quantum sensors probing the violet-tinged gases for signs of the anomaly that had brought Earth's most advanced research vessel to this remote corner of space. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her dark eyes reflecting the swirling cosmic clouds before her. 20 years of space exploration had taught her that the universe's greatest discoveries often came wrapped in mystery. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," Lieutenant Rodriguez called from his station. "It's like nothing in our database." Chen turned, her silver-streaked hair catching the starlight. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." "Energy signatures that shouldn't exist naturally. They're structured, almost like," Rodriguez's voice caught as new data scrolled across his screen. "Ma'am, it's artificial. And it's massive." Through the nebula's cosmic veil, a shape emerged. At first, it appeared to be another gas formation, but as the Odyssey's sensors cut through the interference, the truth revealed itself. A station, gleaming with an otherworldly metal that seemed to drink in the nebula's light, hung suspended in space. Its architecture defied human engineering principles, with impossible angles and structures that seemed to fold in on themselves. "Full stop," Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the historic magnitude of the moment. "Open all frequencies. Let's not make any assumptions about." The ship shuddered as an energy beam lanced through space, passing mere kilometers from their bow. Warning klaxons blared as the Odyssey's defensive systems activated automatically. "Message incoming," Rodriguez announced. "They're broadcasting on multiple bands." The bridge's holoscreen flickered to life, revealing a figure that made Chen's breath catch. The alien was humanoid, but that's where the similarities ended. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and multiple sets of eyes arranged in a geometric pattern studied the human crew with unnerving intensity. "Unidentified vessel," the alien spoke, its words translated in real time by the ship's AI. "You have entered restricted Zarathi Empire space. Your primitive scanning attempts have been noted and are considered an act of aggression. Prepare for inspection and potential detention." Chen stepped forward, her posture straight and diplomatic. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Odyssey. We are an exploration and research ship. We had no knowledge of this being restricted space and meant no offense. We're happy to withdraw immediately." The Zarathi commander's multiple eyes narrowed. "Earth? Ah, yes. The emerging species that recently achieved faster-than-light travel. Your kind has been noticed. Your withdrawal request is denied. You will submit to inspection. The Empire must ensure you haven't stolen any of our technical secrets." "With respect," Chen replied, choosing her words carefully, "we have strict protocols about allowing unknown parties to board our vessel. Perhaps we could meet on neutral ground to discuss." "Your protocols are irrelevant," the Zarathi cut her off. "The Empire's authority is absolute in this sector. Failure to comply will be considered hostile action." Chen felt the weight of history on her shoulders. First contact with an advanced alien civilization, and they were already facing a diplomatic crisis. She knew her next words could shape humanity's relationship with the stars for generations to come. "Commander Rodriguez, initiate the Theseus Protocol," she said quietly. Rodriguez's eyes widened, but he nodded and began the complex sequence that would transmit their entire encounter back to Earth through quantum entanglement, regardless of what happened next. "Zarathi Commander," Chen addressed the screen again. "We understand your concerns. However, you should know that humanity has a long history of dealing with those who mistake technological advancement for moral authority. We've learned harsh lessons about empire and colonization. We're willing to discuss this diplomatically, but we will not be boarded against our will." The Zarathi's face contorted in what might have been amusement. "You dare to lecture the Empire on morality? Your species still fights among itself over resources and ideology. You've barely mastered the basics of interstellar travel. You are children playing with forces beyond your comprehension." Children grow up, Chen replied firmly. And humans tend to grow up very quickly when pushed. I suggest you check your historical databases about how humanity typically responds to ultimatums. The tension on the bridge could have been cut with a knife as the Zarathi commander processed Chen's words. Finally, it spoke again, its tone dripping with condescension. Very well. You have one standard rotation to prepare your vessel for inspection. We will not be so generous if you continue to resist. The transmission cut off. Chen turned to her crew, her expression grim but determined. Send everything we have to Earth Command. And get me a secure channel to Admiral Hassan. The Zarathi Empire needs to learn something that every human knows in their bones. Discovering you're not alone in the universe is amazing, but discovering you're not the strongest can be terrifying. As the Odyssey's crew scrambled to prepare for whatever came next, the nebula's gases swirled around them like a cosmic curtain about to rise on humanity's greatest challenge yet. The Zarathi Empire had made the age-old mistake of assuming technological superiority equated to total superiority. They were about to learn why every human child knew the story of David and Goliath, and why humanity's greatest advances often came in response to those who underestimated them. In the depths of space, the game of empires was about to meet the species that had perfected the art of turning disadvantages into victories, and restrictions into opportunities. The Zarathi thought they were dealing with children. They would soon discover they were dealing with humanity. The Empire's fatal mistake. 3 months after the Odyssey incident, the Zarathi Empire launched what they considered a simple police action. Their warships emerged from hyperspace above Earth's outer colonies on Mars and Europa, expecting a swift surrender from what they deemed a primitive species. Instead, they encountered something that would become legendary in galactic military history. Admiral Hassan stood in Earth Command's Strategic Operations Center, watching the holographic display of Sol System with eyes that had seen too many simulations of this exact scenario. The Zarathi ships appeared as red markers, spreading out in textbook invasion formation. But unlike the simulations, these enemies were about to learn why humans had spent centuries preparing for this moment. They've launched their first wave, his XO reported. 12 capital ships, approximately 300 support vessels. Hassan allowed himself a small smile. Right on schedule. Status of operation Looking Glass. All systems green, sir. They're completely blind to our subsurface installations. The Zarathi advance was perfect by their standards, a precision deployment of overwhelming force designed to shock and awe a lesser civilization into submission. They had no way of knowing they were following a script written decades ago by human strategic analysts who had obsessively studied every first contact scenario in science fiction. The first indication that something was wrong came when their initial demands for surrender were met with silence. The second came when their sensors detected no panic in the colonies, no scrambling of defensive forces, no desperate attempts at evacuation. Instead, they found only empty structures and automated systems running on standby. Sir, a young lieutenant called out, the Zarathi commander is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding we show ourselves. Hassan nodded. Let's give them what they want. Execute Phase 1. Deep beneath the Martian surface, in chambers that had taken generations to construct in absolute secrecy, humanity's real space fleet waited. Not the peaceful exploration vessels or the primitive defense ships the Zarathi had observed, but the products of a civilization that had never stopped preparing for war while praying for peace. The ground began to shake as massive doors opened in the Martian crust. From Europa's icy depths, from Venus's hostile atmosphere, from asteroid bases and hidden lunar facilities, humanity's true military might emerged. Ships that combined centuries of theoretical warfare preparation with technology reverse-engineered from a dozen mysterious alien artifacts found throughout the solar system. The Zarathi commander's multiple eyes widened as new signatures appeared on their sensors. Not dozens of ships, but thousands. Not primitive vessels, but warships that incorporated technologies the Empire had thought impossible for such a young species to possess. "This is Admiral James Hawson of the United Earth Defense Force," his voice boomed across all frequencies. "You have entered sovereign human space and initiated hostile action against our colonies. We gave you every opportunity to choose diplomacy. Remember that in the days to come." The Zarathi commander's response was immediate and predictable. They opened fire. Their energy weapons lanced out toward the human fleet, only to pass harmlessly through holographic decoys as the real ships emerged from quantum shadows behind their lines. "They always shoot first," Hawson murmured. "Execute Phase 2. Human ships moved with impossible precision, implementing battle plans refined through millions of computer simulations. The Zarathi found their formation split, their communications jammed by technologies they didn't know existed, their sensors confused by electronic warfare systems that played on vulnerabilities they didn't know they had. In the Strategic Operations Center, Hawson watched the battle unfold with the calm of someone who had rehearsed this moment countless times. Status of civilian populations. All colonists were evacuated through the deep tunnels weeks ago, sir. The Zarathi are fighting ghosts. The Empire's fatal mistake wasn't just attacking humanity, it was assuming that humans would fight the way the Zarathi expected them to fight. They didn't understand that humanity had spent its entire history preparing for threats it couldn't even imagine, developing contingencies for scenarios that seemed impossible. As the battle raged across the solar system, the Zarathi learned brutal lessons about human warfare. They discovered that humans didn't just plan for victory, they planned for every possible way they might lose, and developed countermeasures for each scenario. They learned that human military doctrine was built on centuries of fighting opponents with superior technology, resources, or numbers. "Sir," the XO reported, "the Zarathi fleet is attempting to regroup near Deimos. Their casualties are severe." Hawson nodded. "Send the offer." Across all frequencies, in every language the Zarathi used, a simple message was broadcast: "You can retreat now with your surviving forces, or you can continue and learn exactly how many more surprises we have waiting. Choose carefully." For several tense moments, the battle hung in balance. Then, slowly, the remaining Zarathi ships began to withdraw, their once perfect formation now a scattered retreat. In the aftermath, as damage reports flowed in and victory celebrations began across the hidden bunkers where humanity had waited out the attack, Hawson stood alone at his command station. He knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would return, stronger and better prepared. But they would find that humans had used that time to prepare as well. Because if humanity had learned one thing from its own bloody history, it was this: the species that survives isn't the strongest or the most advanced, it's the one that never stops adapting, never stops learning, and never stops preparing for the next challenge. In the vast darkness of space, humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy. The Empire had wanted to teach humanity its place in the cosmic order. Instead, they had learned a lesson that would echo through the stars: humans don't just fight wars, they rewrite the rules of warfare itself. The art of human warfare. 6 months into what historians would later call the Zarathi War, humanity had shifted from defensive operations to a carefully calculated offensive campaign. The Empire had gravely underestimated not just human military capability, but humanity's capacity for innovation under pressure. Dr. Maya Patel stood in a newly established Xenowarfare Analysis Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing battle data from a dozen fronts. As Earth's leading expert in adaptive military strategy, she had been tasked with understanding and countering Zarathi warfare doctrine. What she discovered had changed the entire course of the war. "They fight like they build their empire," she explained to the assembled military leadership. "Rigid hierarchies, predetermined responses, absolute adherence to established protocols. It's their greatest weakness." The holographic display shifted to show the latest engagement in the Proxima Centauri system. Zarathi warships moved in their characteristic perfect formations, executing textbook maneuvers that had likely remained unchanged for centuries. "But that's not how humans wage war," Admiral Hawson commented from his seat at the briefing table. Maya smiled. Exactly. We're chaos theory in practice. Every time they develop a counter to our tactics, we're already 3 iterations ahead with something new. The display showed human ships performing maneuvers that would have been considered insane by conventional military doctrine. Smaller vessels used gravitational slingshots around planets to achieve impossible attack angles. Capital ships purposely scattered their formations in ways that appeared random but followed complex mathematical patterns that made them nearly impossible to target effectively. The Zorathi's latest battle reports are fascinating, Maya continued, pulling up intercepted enemy communications. They're struggling to understand why their superior technology isn't giving them the advantage it should. They can't comprehend why their perfectly executed strategies keep failing. General Sarah Chen, recently promoted after the Odyssey incident, leaned forward. Because they're fighting the last battle, while we're inventing the next one. The evidence was clear in every engagement. When the Zorathi deployed advanced energy shields, humans responded with missiles that didn't try to penetrate them at all. Instead, they created localized quantum fluctuations that made the shields exponentially more energy-consuming to maintain. When the Empire developed faster-than-light interceptors, humanity introduced ghost fleets of quantum-entangled ships that could appear to be in multiple places simultaneously. Our latest analysis suggests they're particularly vulnerable to what we're calling cultural warfare, Maya explained, bringing up a new set of data. Their rigid social structure means they literally cannot comprehend certain human military concepts. Their commanders are actually unable to process the idea that a lower-ranking officer might modify or disobey orders based on changing battlefield conditions. The room filled with knowing chuckles. Every human officer present understood exactly what that meant. It was time to really show the Empire why humanity's militaries had always emphasized initiative and adaptability in their commanders. Operation Hydra launched a week later. Instead of concentrating human forces for a major offensive as the Zorathi expected, Earth deployed hundreds of small, autonomous battle groups across a dozen sectors simultaneously. Each group had complete tactical freedom to engage the enemy however they saw fit, bound only by basic strategic objectives. The result was pure chaos, for the Zorathi. Their command structure simply couldn't adapt fast enough to hundreds of human forces all fighting differently, all changing tactics continuously, all making independent decisions based on local conditions. Every time they developed a response to one group's tactics, they found other groups using completely different approaches. Report from the Arcturus sector, a young lieutenant announced during the 3rd day of the operation. Captain Rodriguez's battle group used civilian mining equipment to modify an asteroid field into what they're calling a gravity maze. Zorathi Pursuit Force got completely tangled up trying to follow them through it. Maya nodded approvingly. Classic human improvisation. How did the Zorathi respond? They didn't, the lieutenant replied with a grin. Their doctrine has no protocol for responding to weaponized celestial bodies. They're still waiting for instructions from their high command. The war room erupted in laughter. It was the perfect example of why humanity was winning a war they should have lost by any conventional measure. While the Empire's ships were more advanced, their weapons more powerful, and their industrial base larger, they were discovering that warfare wasn't just about technology and numbers. It was about creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to try the impossible. New intelligence coming in, General Chen announced, reading from her tactical display. The Zorathi War Council is convening an emergency session. Apparently, there's significant debate about whether humans are actually a single species, given how unpredictably different our tactics are in each engagement. Maya couldn't help but smile at that. The Empire was learning what Earth's military historians had known for centuries: there was no single, human way of war. Humanity's greatest military strength was its infinite capacity for tactical and strategic innovation. As Operation Hydra continued to unfold across the stars, the Zorathi Empire faced an increasingly uncomfortable truth. They had started this war believing their superior technology and rigid discipline would easily overcome a younger, less advanced species. Instead, They found themselves fighting an enemy that treated their carefully established rules of warfare as mere suggestions, that saw their predictability as a weakness, and that seemed to delight in finding new ways to turn the Empire's strength against itself. The art of human warfare, as the Zarathi were learning, wasn't about having the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. It was about having the imagination to see possibilities where others saw only established protocols, and the audacity to try strategies that no sane military would ever consider. And humanity was just getting started. The tables turn. The Zarathi Empire had never encountered an enemy quite like humanity. 1 year into the war, they were learning that military conflict with humans didn't just mean battling their armed forces, it meant facing an entire civilization that transformed itself in response to challenges. In the massive orbital shipyards above Mars, director Elena Volkov watched as another carrier group took shape. What had once been facilities for building scientific vessels and cargo ships had, within months, been completely retooled for war production. But these weren't just warships being built, they were the products of humanity's greatest minds working together in ways previously thought impossible. Another breakthrough from the quantum computing team, her assistant reported, handing over a datapad. They found a way to integrate Zarathi shield frequencies into our new defensive systems. The capture of that frigate last month is paying dividends. Elena nodded, watching as robotic assemblers swarmed over the hull of a newly constructed vessel. How long until we can implement it across the fleet? That's the beautiful part, her assistant grinned. We already have. The new AI manufacturing systems can update production specs in real time. Every ship that leaves these yards is more advanced than the one before it. This was humanity's true advantage, not just the ability to build ships, but to continuously improve them. While the Zarathi relied on centuries-old designs with minor iterative improvements, human vessels evolved dramatically with each new class. The Empire built warships. Humanity built better ways to build warships. In the diplomatic sector of Earth's orbital hub, Ambassador Marcus Chen, no relation to the general, was reviewing reports from deep within Empire territory. The military conflict had sparked something unexpected, a cultural revolution within the rigid Zarathi society. Another defection request, he noted, reading from his screen. This time it's an entire research division from their Advanced Weapons Development Center. His aide looked up from her own work. That's the third this month. They're really starting to see the advantages of our way of doing things, aren't they? Marcus smiled. The Empire's greatest fear was coming true, not that they would lose the war militarily, but that their own people would start questioning their rigid hierarchical system. Videos of human society, showing the freedom of expression and thought that Earth took for granted, had become contraband treasures throughout Empire space. They never understood what they were really fighting, Marcus mused. They thought they were facing a military force, but they're actually facing an idea. The idea was simple but revolutionary to the Empire's citizens, that progress comes from freedom to question, to innovate, to challenge established ways of thinking. Every captured Zarathi prisoner became a potential convert when they saw how human society actually functioned. In a secure facility beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Sarah Chen, again, no relation, led the xenopsychology team studying Zarathi behavior patterns. Their discoveries were reshaping the entire war effort. Their entire society is built on the assumption that order comes from rigid control, she explained to visiting military officials. When they encounter something that achieves better results through flexibility and individual initiative, it creates cognitive dissonance they can't resolve. The holograms around her showed various Zarathi reactions to human innovations. Empire engineers expressing disbelief at the efficiency of human manufacturing methods. Military officers struggling to understand how human forces could operate effectively without constant detailed orders from above. Scientists amazed by the speed of human technological advancement. They're experiencing a culture shock so profound it's actually causing physical stress responses, Sarah continued. Their neural patterns show increasing instability when forced to confront evidence that challenges their fundamental assumptions about how civilization should function. The implications were staggering. The Empire wasn't just losing a military conflict, it was facing an existential crisis. Every victory by human forces demonstrated the superiority of adaptability over rigid control. Every technological breakthrough showed the power of encouraging individual innovation. Every successful operation by independent human commanders proved that initiative was better than blind obedience. In the Empire's core worlds, unrest was growing. Young Zarathi began questioning why they couldn't experiment with new ideas like humans did. Military officers started wondering why they couldn't adapt tactics to battlefield conditions. Scientists asked why they had to wait for approval from multiple committees before testing new theories. Latest intelligence from deep cover agents, Marcus reported in an emergency session of the Human Defense Council. 3 major systems in the Empire's industrial sector are showing signs of open revolt. They're not just questioning the war anymore, they're questioning the entire imperial system. Admiral Hassan leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful expression on his face. So we're winning by not just fighting their military, but by showing them a better way to live. Exactly, Marcus replied. Every time they adapt one of our tactics, they have to question why they didn't think of it themselves. Every time they copy one of our technologies, they have to confront why their system didn't produce it first. We're not just defeating their forces, we're defeating their entire worldview. The Empire had started the war believing their superior technology and rigid discipline would easily overcome a younger, less advanced species. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't just want to win battles, they wanted to win minds and hearts. An enemy that treated every engagement as an opportunity to demonstrate a better way of doing things. As the war entered its second year, the question was no longer whether humanity would win, but how much of the Empire's social structure would survive contact with human ideas. They had wanted to subdue Earth. Instead, they had exposed their entire civilization to something far more powerful than any weapon, the idea that progress comes from freedom, innovation comes from questioning the status quo, and strength comes from embracing change rather than resisting it. The tables hadn't just turned, they had been completely reinvented, just like everything else humans touched. Victory has many forms. 18 months after the Zarathi Empire launched their simple police action against humanity, their high command gathered in their sacred central chamber for the first time in 3 centuries. The massive hall, designed to showcase imperial might, now felt oddly antiquated compared to the elegant efficiency of captured human vessels. Supreme Commander Vexthor, last of the old guard who had advocated for war with Earth, faced the assembled leadership. The humans have sent their terms, he announced, his multiple eyes displaying an emotion rarely seen in Zarathi leaders, uncertainty. But they weren't the terms anyone expected. In Earth's combined military diplomatic headquarters, Ambassador Marcus Chen stood before the assembled human leadership, presenting humanity's proposal for ending the conflict. The room was silent as he outlined a plan that would reshape galactic civilization. We don't want their surrender, he explained, gesturing to the holographic map showing both human and Zarathi space. We want their partnership. Admiral Hassan raised an eyebrow. You want to offer them an alliance? After everything they've done? Better, Marcus smiled. We want to offer them evolution. The plan was quintessentially human, ambitious, innovative, and completely unexpected. Instead of demanding reparations or territory, humanity proposed a complete restructuring of both civilizations into something entirely new, the Galactic Cooperative. Think about it, Dr. Maya Patel added, stepping forward. We've learned as much from them as they have from us. Their technological foundation is incredible, they just never had the creative freedom to fully explore its potential. Imagine combining their technical knowledge with our innovation. The proposal spread through both human and Zarathi space, causing reactions that ranged from disbelief to excitement. It was a peace plan that didn't just end the war, it ended the very conditions that had made war possible. Key points included joint research initiatives combining Zarathi technical expertise with human creativity. A new educational exchange program allowing young Zarathi to study human methods of innovation. Gradual reformation of the Empire's rigid social structure, guided by human social scientists. Combined military forces that would adopt the best practices of both civilizations. Open borders for trade, cultural exchange, and scientific collaboration. In the Empire's capital, the response was immediate and unexpected. Young Zarathi took to the streets not in protest, but in celebration. They had seen enough of human society to recognize opportunity when it appeared. The Empire has three choices, Marcus explained to the Zarathi High Command in a historic direct transmission. They can continue fighting a war they now know they'll lose. They can surrender and face dissolution. Or they can join us in building something greater than either of our civilizations could achieve alone. The decision didn't come from the High Command. It came from millions of Zarathi citizens who had spent months watching humans demonstrate a better way of living. The Empire's rigid control crumbled not under military might, but under the weight of its own people's desire for change. 2 years after first contact, humans and Zarathi worked side by side in joint facilities across known space. Former enemy vessels patrolled together, their crews learning from each other. Zarathi scientists experienced the thrill of unrestricted research for the first time, while human engineers marveled at the elegant complexity of imperial technology. In the new combined academy on Mars, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as human and Zarathi students collaborated on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. "They're not just learning from us," she noted to a colleague. "They're teaching us too." Their attention to detail, their deep understanding of fundamental principles, combined with our creativity, there's no limit to what we can achieve. The transformation wasn't without challenges. Centuries of rigid hierarchy didn't disappear overnight. But humanity had learned patience in victory, understanding that lasting change comes from inspiration rather than force. Admiral Hassan, speaking at the inauguration of the first Joint Fleet, summarized it best: "The Empire wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Instead, we showed them that no one's place is fixed. The future belongs to those who are willing to grow, to change, and to imagine better possibilities." The greatest victory, as it turned out, wasn't defeating the Zarathi Empire. It was helping them become something better. Humanity had faced its first interstellar war and won not just through force of arms, but through the power of ideas. As ships of the newly formed Galactic Cooperative patrolled the stars, they carried with them a message to any other civilizations watching from the darkness: humanity doesn't just fight wars, they transform them into opportunities for growth. They don't seek to conquer their enemies, but to convert them into partners. In the end, the Zarathi Empire had wanted war, and humanity had given them something far more powerful: a future. It was a lesson that would echo through the cosmos. When humanity says, "Okay," to your declaration of war, they're not just accepting the challenge. They're beginning your evolution. The stars watched as a new era began, one where the combined strengths of two very different species laid the foundation for something unprecedented in galactic history: a civilization that valued both order and chaos, tradition and innovation, stability and change. The Empire had sought to subjugate humanity. Instead, humanity had lifted them to the stars.